This is the final go no go poll for Flight 3 of Starship. Invite 2.
Go.
Stage 1.
Go.
Stage 2.
Go.
Flight director is go for launch.
We're at the 2 o'clock hour here, and I'll be admitting people as we go through this, like John Ratliff is coming on board right now from Austin, Texas. And we have a good crew, and we've a few things going on. I'm James Melton, Chief Ambassador of the Mars Society. This is the Mars Society Ambassador Briefing. And our mission, let me get that individual on. There's Steve on there. There's your cohort, Emma. He's coming on board too. Good. Yeah. Our mission is to serve as a professional team of people dedicated to elevating public awareness of our mission to land humans on Mars within this decade and begin settling the red planet. So we're moving forward quite nicely with that on all points. There are a couple of people that are going to share some thoughts today. I'm looking at the list to make sure they're on. I don't see them as yet. Bill Carton, let me ask you a question. Do you know of the date yet for the Starship Test 4 launch?
Every time people ask that in some of my groups, I put up a poster that just says, "This day has gone 0 days since somebody's asked when it's going to launch." So, no, we think target May 15th. Things are going very, very well with the launch vehicle. They've done static fire on the Starship and the booster. They've tested spin prime systems and the water deluge system. The weekly flyovers that happen out of Brownsville. There's a place called Rio Grande Valley Aviation RGV on YouTube, and they also accept Patreon contributions to pay for a Cessna rental. But they go up at least once a week and do flyovers at 10,000 feet and do spy camera and then a crowdsourced analysis of people who know what they're looking at: air conditioning systems, nitrogen chillers, all kinds of things are analyzed once a week by RGV Aviation. That's exciting too, even if we don't get updates from Elon, because Elon's pronouncements are always super optimistic and unrealistic in terms of time. But we can get a good idea when they're moving boosters and rockets back and forth, in and out, putting on new heat shield tiles and so forth. So we can sort of tell what's which things they've checked off on the checklist. And yeah, we think the FAA will be the as usual, the delay. So May 15th.
Yes, excellent. I'm surprised Elon doesn't have Gwen Shotwell in the spotlight a little bit more, giving some rundown on what's happening, because is she not pretty much handling the bulk of the Starship activities?
Oh, that's totally true. She's got her, she's got her head to the grindstone, getting things to happen and not being a public speaker. So we're sort of happy she's not diverted by public speaking, even though she's better at it than Elon.
She's excellent at it. I've seen her give a couple of speeches. She's from Northwestern University. I had the privilege of speaking with the university not long back.
Wow.
And she was not there, but she's got a good handle on what's going on. And I'm very pleased that Elon passed the baton to her.
One of my favorite Gwynn quotes was, she was in front of Congress and complaining about the cost of ULA, like the Delta IV Heavy that just launched its last one today, $400 million a launch. And even Atlas was 200 million. Maybe Vulcan will be cheaper, but at Atlas is the competitor at $200 million. Gwynn said, "I don't know how to make a $200 million rocket." When a Falcon 9 Heavy is 100 million. So
Yes, yes. We have a good collection of people on board. Thank you, Bill, for that and helping me through it here. I'm going to continue watching for Desmond to come on board as well, but I see Bob Solheim is on. Hello, Bob. Good to
Hello, welcome everybody.
Yes, Bob is, as you may recall,
Yes.
one of our newer ambassadors. And Bob, refresh me again. You're in Chandler, Arizona, is that correct?
That's correct. I have a home in Chandler, Arizona, and also in Simi Valley, California.
Excellent. And you have graciously agreed to share one of the conferences that you recently attended in late March. And I'm
Yes.
eager to hear about that. And of course, uh, Jonathan, Emma, Steve, and Ed, and John, and Ronnie, and all of the others who are Gar and Steve in England, another one. I want all of you to listen in and come up with some thoughts about what's going on. We'd like to hear more about what's happening in your world. But I've asked, uh, let me read this one from Ahisha. Thank you for your email. Okay, she may be on board as well. She's from the Thunderbird Club, the Thunderbird Global Leadership School in Tempe, Arizona. And she wants to join the ambassador program as well. So we'll probably have her on board the next time we see each other. But I've asked Bob to give us kind of an overview on the program that he went to, the name, how the interactions were. And Bob, if you would just kind of take the reins on that and take whatever time you need to brief us on what it was you did, where you went, your feelings about it, what you learned, and what they were trying to get across at the conference.
Well, I have to say I'm very glad I went because it was an eye opener for me. I've
What
only
was
lived in Chandler.
what was the
Pardon?
name? What was the name of the conference?
It was the Arizona Space Summit. It was held near the end of March at Arizona State University, and it was the second annual summit, and they plan to have this on a yearly basis. I've only lived in Chandler now for about 2 years, so I wasn't that involved in what's going on at the ASU campus, but I'm going to get much more involved because what I learned really opened my eyes. There were about 150 participants from academia, mainly the three universities in Arizona, Arizona State, Northern Arizona, and University of Arizona. There were also government people there and commercial participants. And the mission of having the Space Summit is to provide a comprehensive effort to promote and develop Arizona as a resource and a premier hub for the space sector industry. Although this was only the second annual summit, and it's still, I would say, getting on its feet, there were some big name players supporting it and really pushing it. So I expect it to get a lot more attention and a lot more participation as time goes on. The ASU president, Michael Crow, was there and spoke. Governor Katie Hobbs was there personally, as was Michael, and she spoke. And then we also got video messages from our two state senators, Mark Kelly, former astronaut, and Kirsten Sinema. The message from Governor Hobbs was that, quote unquote, Arizona is open for business. She pointed out that ASU and not ASU, but Arizona is first in the US for guided missile and space vehicle manufacturing, second in employment in these sectors, and ranks in the top 5 for aerospace and defense manufacturing. So it's already got a very good base to support the space industry. And in Arizona, the push is to have a very collaborative effort that brings government, industry, academia, and community partners together to find innovative ways to provide creative solutions to the challenges of developing technology to go to Mars and technology in general, but specifically space. ASU's President Michael Crow spoke about ASU's innovative way to create change, and he feels very strongly about what he's doing, and he's been on a mission for about the last 20 years here at ASU. I'm just going to give you a couple quotes from him. He said, "We're decidedly uninterested in building something anyone else has ever built in the past. As it comes to a structure for an educational system, and specifically the Arizona university system." He also said, in this area of space technology, space exploration, all these things, if we just approach them the way we've approached them in the past, he feels we're going to fail. He pointed out that ASU used to have about 6,000 engineering students, and a third of them dropped out after their freshman year. Now he says they have about 32,000 engineering students, over a 5-fold increase, and about 90% are completing their freshman year. So definitely an example of a very good approach, not only to increase the engineering school participation, but also to keep people in that school. He also said, "The point I'm making to you is that for all this to work, everything has to change. The new companies that you're forming," and he was speaking to the people, of course, at the conference, the new divisions you're forming, the new trajectories and initiatives for established companies, all these things need to change. Now, his big push in making this change happen is that he thinks that we ought to educate people in multidisciplinary education and multidisciplinary degrees, because that's where a lot of the strength is. And also, there's some hindrances currently in the acceptance rates at universities, the way people are vetted to be able to find out if they, for instance, can make it into the engineering school to start as a freshman. He's changing that whole approach, because people may not be good on a test, for instance, but they have a lot of other indicators that show that they'll be a success and they'll be innovative. He pointed that ASU has been ranked #1, and I didn't know this till now, in innovation for 9 straight years, ahead of MIT and Stanford by US News and World Report. About 10 years ago, we published a book called "Designing the New American University," to lay out and promote his approach to transform education, and specifically within Arizona. And he's been implementing this approach for the last 10 plus years, and it seems to be very, very effective. I also wanted to point out that ASU has a research center in the School for Earth and Space Exploration. There's a Mars space flight facility, and it is composed of scientists, researchers, and students that specialize in using instruments on spacecraft on location at Mars for remote sensing research, primarily concerning the geology and mineralogy of Mars. Is headed by Dr. Phil Christensen, who is principal investigator on the THEMIS instrument. He's co-investigator for the Mars Exploration Rover project and principal investigator on the mini TES instrument on board the rovers. This facility at ASU also houses a Mars education program, which provides workshops, field trips, and other opportunities for teachers and students to work hand in hand with scientists at ASU on Mars exploration. While I was there, I also made contact with a lot of people that spoke because they did have panel discussions, and this was a quite talented and impressive group of people that attended as participants. I think the right kind of people were there. And on the when they were on panels, they were very, very impressive on how they handled questions and the information they provided. So that's just kind of an overall recap of what happened. I definitely plan on going next year. I'd encourage anybody else that wants to go to do so. And I can answer any questions you might have.
I do have one question here. Thank you very much, Bob, for that. I appreciate that. The conference was how long?
It was a day and a half.
Okay. And you say there were 150 people present.
Right.
Were they mostly local or did they draw a national group?
Most of them were local, although there were some that were national, and there were some people that were in neighboring states that also came.
Okay. Not having gone, but I always keep my eyes and ears open when I do go to these programs. Was anything brought up at all or mentioned in any way, shape, or form about the Mars Society and the
Well,
work?
I brought it up in people I talked with, and I
Okay,
promoted it.
that's great. That's exactly why we want you to earn the big bucks here.
Oh, you're going to double my pay?
Yeah, that would be great. Would like that very much. So yeah,
Yeah,
we're doing what we can to generate larger audiences as well in our conferences.
yeah,
So it's always a challenge, especially during COVID and after COVID. But I think they're starting to bounce back to that, and I'm really pleased. Who else had was anything? Did you share anything about the MTI, the Mars Technology Institute, with anyone? Are people aware of what's going on and what we're actually doing, Bob?
no, that didn't wasn't entailed in my discussion with people, and I will promote that in the future.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're coming along pretty well with it, so I'm really pleased with the progress. You know, James and Robert were over to London, and they were looking with some kind of a support structure over there. Someone had expressed some interest enough so that they called them to join them and explain more about it. So I think we may have some support with the AI aspect of the MTI. Of course, there's the biotech, there's the AI, and then of course there's the nuclear power aspect of it. Who else has a comment for Bob or a question for Bob? Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, my typical question is, did SpaceX condescend to send any briefers, or was it their usual, they don't talk publicly much at conferences?
No, there was a SpaceX representative, but they were fairly high level, um, non-technical, more marketing. They were on the panel, one of the panels.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
Thanks, Bob, for that. Really appreciate it.
sure. Yeah.
Ronnie, are you still driving or are you parked somewhere?
I'm parked.
You're parked, okay. Where are you right now? Are you in Texas?
Yeah, I'm in San Antonio, Texas, on the way to yoga class.
Okay. Can you give us just a little rundown? You were at the SpaceX Test 3 launch, correct?
Yes, that was March 14th, 2 days after our last ambassadors meeting.
Yes. Uh, what did you feel about that? How did you get there? How many people were present? What went on?
Okay, well, me and my brother-in-law, who's also part of our chapter, we left the house at midnight, and we got there like 5 in the morning, and we was told that the gates didn't open at 5:30, but when we got there, park was full, so they must have changed their policy because I guess the cars are backing up over the bridge. So I was shocked how many people were sleeping on the beach, and all these children were all sleeping in tents and stuff. I was really excited to see just how many you know thousands of people were there that early in the morning, and how many children were there, which really was amazing. But there had no internet connectivity on the, so a few people were able to say when it's going to launch. They kept saying going to be delayed another 30 minutes, another 30 minutes. Finally, they said, I think they said like 8:20, and about 8:22, we had a bunch of cloud cover, so we couldn't see the base of it like I could the second one I saw, launch number two. I could see the base of the rocket, but this one, nobody on the beach could see it till it was about about probably 500 yards up in the air, and I actually got a nice video of it going up, and posted that on my Facebook page, the San Antonio chapter. Uh, and I guess it was supposed to accomplish like 10 missions, and it accomplished like 7 of the 10, which was an amazing feat in itself. Like I said, I guess the biggest thing was the excitement of just being. My brother-in-law said, "Yes, let's like going to a Super Bowl, except everybody's on the same team. We're all
Yeah,
cheering." And I probably saw about 100 T-shirts that said "Occupy Mars," and of course I had on my Mars Society shirt and was handing out business cards and.
you're a good man, Ronnie. Thank
And
you for that. Yes.
the only thing you got to remember: don't plan anything after this because it took 3 hours to get out of the parking lot.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, good news from the home front. Thank you so much. All
Yep.
right. Go ahead, Bill. You have a question?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, definitely bring your own porta potty or something. The trick I used when I used to go to Vandenberg, there at the end of the food chain for connectivity too, and you
Right.
overload it with 20,000 people. So what I always did was I got somebody outside the region, like back near my house, an hour or two away. And then either you can get a phone call through or texting, and then the person, your support person back in the van will sneak you some updates. So just use somebody from outside the region and try phone calls or texting to get any updates.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, you talk about porta potties. Actually, the only viewing area was like some South Padre Island, so there's plenty of bathrooms.
Oh, that's surprising. Yeah, Vandenberg, there's nothing out on the public streets.
Yeah, you can't get to Boca Chica. They closed the whole road, so you have no choice.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, true.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that. I appreciate it. Desmond, if you haven't met Desmond before, he's a great guy. He's the president of the Mars Society chapter is it in Tempe?
Yeah, Thunderbird School of Global Management in Phoenix, downtown Phoenix.
In Phoenix, okay. And I asked him to just give a little overview of what's going on with the new Mars Society. It's one of our newest Mars Society chapters. And Desmond is also, as Bob was last month, Desmond is our newest ambassador. So let's give him a little round of applause. And Desmond, would you just take a few moments and share a little bit about you, your chapter, and your reasons for wanting to be a Mars Society ambassador?
All right, thank you very much, James. And hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here and meeting you all. So I am called Desmond Wisinyoy, and I'm originally from Cameroon. I came over here to the US 2022, where I'm currently doing my master's in global management, with a concentration in global digital transformation. But prior to that, I worked back in Africa in the United Nations, where I was a project manager, and I was involved in GIS and remote sensing in terms of capacity building, carrying out trainings around Africa, and satellite designs and modeling for experts. So I came over here, and as you earlier know, I'm doing my master's now. And while in Thunderbird, that's ASU, it's a unit in ASU, it's a management school. So they have like no interest in when it comes to things of space, right? Outer space, most especially when it comes to Mars settlement. And with my, my advocacy for outer space, I really had this great idea with Jonas, who is a Mars ambassador as well, to see on how we can create this club. And there is no other better place than to come to the Mars Society itself, where they are really pioneering this mission for settlement into the red planet. So we created this club in Thunderbird, and it has been a marvelous time because we have a lot of people, students, that we have created this awareness about the importance of outer space, and most especially space exploration. So with that said, we have partnered with a lot of other clubs in ASU, like the WP Carry Space Club and other clubs around ASU, and seeing how we can create this awareness and interest for students to really be aware of the importance of Mars settlement, and not just Mars settlement itself, but actually getting into a field in the space sector. Because as management students in Thunderbird, there is this myth and belief that outer space or space stuff is just meant for scientists and engineers. So we are trying to bridge that gap as well, to let them know that irrespective of your background, being a management student, you can actually find yourself in the space sector and contribute in Mars settlement as well. So far, so good. We have I think now we have like 500 members so far, and we have a team of 6, and we are recruiting more for this advocacy. Yeah.
Well, marvelous. That's great. Good news. Thank you so much. I'm looking over the screen here at some of the people on board. All of you are doing great things. I know that, but I don't know particularly what's happening. Who would be willing to share a little bit, Emma, about what's going on, or Steve? With your projects, STEM, etc. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, Jim. So, yeah, just some updates from us. We're heavily involved with training, education. We've actually created a second company now for that purpose. So we've split our education efforts out into the Alpha Colony, and we are currently involved with our local university to develop space training for all the children across the country. So we're working, the local university is helping us to develop a portal. So they're paying us, it's their project. But it's the astronomy department at the university that really want to help teachers all across the country to have materials and support to be able to teach classroom-led sessions to the children with the expertise from the astronomy department. So that means the children are going to learn more about infrared, traveling through space, radiation, but also how to identify planets, how to find planets and Goldilocks planets, and learning all about the just the wonders of space, really. And what that does is it helps the teachers to get access to materials that they're not necessarily experts in. And it's going to be fantastic, and we're very excited about that. And at the same time, we're also launching a new project for adult retraining in our region, because as you were saying, Bob, from the conference recently, it's a message that we hear in quite a lot of conferences all around the UK. We went to the Space was it the Space UK conference? Yeah, Space UK. It was held in Ireland at the end of last year. And again, we had cabinet ministers and government ministers there, all promoting vocations in engineering, technology, space, STEM stuff. But all the STEM education tends to be geared at children. And I'm working on a project right now to produce a site to help adults retrain and get interested into STEM skills. What do they mean? Because we do need them for all the new space endeavors, the new innovations coming out. And that's getting a lot of traction. So I'm very excited about that. Because also our other company, Phantom Factory, we specialize in smart building technology. So we work very much with engineering companies, construction companies, innovation companies who are creating more and more gadgets to monitor environments, as you were also saying earlier about monitoring living spaces, air quality, temperatures, all this kind of thing. So we're involved on the IT front of that, AI, neural networking, a lot of fascinating things going on there. So there's a lot we can bring to both sides. So a lot going on. And everywhere we go, we tell people about the Mars Society. And we've got our space course, Destination Mars, that Bill, you very kindly helped us with. And that's getting a lot of traction over here. So it's really helping people understand what's going on with Mars colonization. Like, all this is happening. This huge industry is going on all around them with engineering and technology and space, and they're not aware of it. So yeah, we're doing a lot, all we can really, to try and promote the message. And I keep pointing everyone to the Mars Society, and we'll keep doing that with all our sites.
Thank you, Emma. I appreciate it. Do you and Steve go together often, or do you do your own independent programs?
We usually go together.
Okay, all right, that's good. I noticed you're in the same room together, maybe 2 feet apart, which is good. That's fine. Steve Wyatt, you're over there in England too, and you sent me a video which I thought was fascinating, that Emma may have seen through her speaking about 3D printing and the timeframes of our Mars establishment. Do you recall that video that you sent over to me, Steve?
Yes, it came off YouTube actually, so anybody can access it. But there's quite a lot of different types of things that are out there to watch. But that particular one struck me as being very interesting because it was showing how that they were going to 3D replicate machines to work on Mars, and the video explained it really well, I thought. I think without actually seeing the video, it's a little difficult to describe it really, because it was so futuristic and mechanical. It's a kind of a visual experience, wasn't it, to watch the video and see how things will be developed on the surface of Mars when we finally get there.
You know what I think I'll do? I'm going to, when I recap this and edit this program down, I'm going to include that video in there so you all have a chance to see it. I think it's an interesting video. And I'm also going to include the clip that Ronnie sent me of the Elon Musk. Ronnie, when was that taken? The lecture was a couple of days ago for Elon Musk, giving the projections of time and what the process is for the Starship. And was that?
Yeah, it was about 2 days ago, right there at the SpaceX facility in Boca Chica.
Yeah, I will include that link as well. Definitely worth watching. Definitely. Okay, I'm kind of pointing at people. I'm looking at John Ratliff. We haven't heard from John for a while, but I'm sure interested in what's going on over there in Texas. How are you doing, Guy?
Doing well. Hope everybody else is too. We had an eclipse party yesterday. We were in the middle of the cone of totality here in central.
You were.
Central
So you went dark.
And we had about a dozen people here that were enjoying the eclipse. We weren't sure we were going to be able to see it since it was cloudy, and we had a forecast for rain at 1 p.m. here local time yesterday when the eclipse was supposed to be happening. But it all turned out fine. It's quite an experience and an opportunity to talk to folks about what we've been doing with the Mars Society and make it real interesting for folks. And we had about 4.5 minutes of totality here. And it actually did get fairly dark, kind of like dusk, and quite an impressive sight. I've never been personal witness to a total eclipse before, so it was a lot more interesting and spectacular than any of us that were watching it from here had expected. So that was a lot of fun, and an opportunity for outreach as well. A lot of the neighbors were sitting in their driveways and watching it and just having a good time with it.
That's excellent. I noticed one of James Burke's emails. He was back in Ohio for it. He said what people often don't pay attention to is the 360-degree horizon, which is lit, but overhead it's dark. And are there any unique experiences, color-wise, sound-wise, animal-wise, bird-wise, that you were experiencing?
The birds got quiet in a lot of cases. It was like they were getting ready to roost or something. And as far as the visuals go, seeing the corona of the sun with the moon over the top of the core was quite spectacular. And it's hard to get a good photo of that with your cell phone, but there's professional photographers you can go and look up and see what kind of pictures they took in time-lapse sequences. Probably the most interesting piece was Bailey's beads, if you've ever heard of that.
Yes.
Bailey's beads are the some of the sun peeking through the mountains on the moon. Mm-hmm. And they kind of get illuminated in places and are different from one side to the other as it enters totality and exits. So some of that was really interesting as far as an astronomical event goes. And, to have folks that aren't really familiar with astronomy per se that were watching this, I think, that's an interesting way to generate additional interest in what's going on with the space program and talking about what's going on with SpaceX and the Mars Society and all that. So, and also, by the way, somebody mentioned it was less than $100 million for a Falcon 9 launch, but I did hear Elon say that a Starship launch, each one of these Starship launches is about 100 million. So per shot. And that's a lot. So it was an opportunity to talk to folks about what we're doing and have some fun in the process.
Thank you, John, for that recap. Anyone else get a chance to see a total eclipse where they were? No? Okay. I'm going to be calling on Ed, and I'm going to be, if Kai down there in West Africa can talk a bit too, that would be great. Kai, are you down in West Africa right now in Ghana? He may have stepped away just for a moment, but if he returns, I'll nab him. Ed, what's going on in your world? There you are. What's going on in your world, Ed?
Okay.
Any feedback from the conferences you had organized?
Well, Ron helped out a lot. We were at the smaller Star Trek convention event held in San Francisco. almost a month ago. And about 2,000 were there. And the Northern California chapter of the Mars Society organized our participation in the event. Ron was there helping out for the whole entire event. And we've got a tremendous, well, to show you the kind of response we got, at the Las Vegas convention, attended by about 10,000 people last summer, around 300, which we thought was very good, attended Zubrin's talk. At this convention, attended by 2,000, a quarter of the convention participants attended that talk, which was better than my most optimistic expectations. And he sold like 50 books, got a great response. Around 50 new people from the Northern California area signed a sign-up sheet, email list, to find out more about the local chapter of the Mars Society. And I'm sure the chapter is following up, contacting those people now. So that was successful. But I have to tell you, I'm not going to, maybe next month at our next ambassadors meeting, maybe Jim Burke, and I could help explain by far the biggest event that the Mars Society has ever participated in, ever, anywhere. We're all about outreach, and going to a convention of Star Trek people of 10,000 in Las Vegas has been fantastic. This event, and I'm really pleased about this, is taking place in Salt Lake City, Utah, or very near Salt Lake City, Utah, the end of June. This is a good estimate. About 600,000 people from around the country will be attending this event. It's an air show put on by the Hill Air Force Base in northern Utah. And at the event, it's a 2-day event, air show, they have a huge airplane hangar set aside for STEM events. And the Mars Society has been invited to participate in that event by one of the key organizers of the entire STEM event. This is a person who I think is, well, I've got to be talking to James about it. I think we'll be joining the Mars Society pretty soon. And she could probably give a report at the next Mars Society meeting on this, ambassadors meeting. They expect 60,000 people, families with their children, elementary school children, high school, college students, families, to attend and go through the huge airport hangar to look at the different STEM events. The Mars Society will be there. James Burke is coming in for that too. We'll have some local participation from the Mars Society to help take care of our table, our display. As possible, the BYU University Rover student university people will have a presentation too. It's going to be absolutely huge. I mean, 60,000 people. I've looked at videos at the past STEM events, yearly events. 60,000 people easily go through that concourse, and they'll be passing by the Mars Society, and many will be talking to us. But next month, there'll be a report, maybe by Jim Burke, maybe by a new ambassador of the Mars Society who's organizing, helping our participation. And I don't think we've ever done anything that big before that I know of, but maybe James knows of something like that. I really don't.
I'm thinking that, as I'm sure Emma and Steve, you are too, is there a possible role, because you're so strongly involved in the STEM work, maybe some kind of a coordination effort might be in order. That
Yeah,
would
we'd definitely be interested.
probably.
And I love Star Trek.
There you go. Yes, live long and prosper. So
Okay.
you might want to connect with Ed on that. And let me just share a little bit about the leadership aspect, because what you are doing out there for yourselves and for the Mars Society is so needed. It's almost embarrassing to connect with people out there who still know nothing about what's happening in as far as our space program. And it's a shame. As my dad said, it's a dirty, rotten shame. And this is why I started the Mars Ambassador program. For people like you who have something to say, who are doing this in their own lives and are out there and want to be out there even more to present these ideas and bring people along with us. Now, there are many types of leaders, from autocratic to dictatorial to compassionate, permissive, and a myriad of styles within that category. And I've said this before, and you've probably heard me, but in today's world, to be recognized as a leader, it's no longer enough to amass great wealth. It's no longer enough to be the president or CEO of a major corporation. And it's no longer enough to be seen at a White House dinner party. No, the people who will lead us in this new era must be more than wealthy, powerful, or prominent. They must have changed the world around them for the better. And that's what I believe you're doing, is you're focusing on the future. I always look at age. Maybe I'm looking at it a little more seriously now than I did when I was younger. But I look at age. Those people I believe are old talk about the past. And those people who are young talk about the future. And I'm not even sure it has much to do with chronological age, because we have a chronological age, a physical age, and a physiological age, and a mental age. So anyway, so if we're going to go and create leadership, I think it needs to be done with respect, ethics, and dignity. And you are the example. I like the statement by Gandhi: be the example, be the change you want to see in the world. The question I like to have you ask yourself is, would the person I aspire to be do what I am about to do? Now, this sheds a whole new light on your activities and how you move forward. I like to look at leadership kind of like romance. We love the ones we love, not so much for who they are, but for how we feel when we are with them. And the same thing has to do with leadership. Leadership is, it's not a power issue. It's about empowering people, and people want to be with you. You cannot identify yourself as a leader. Others have to identify you as that leader. I mean, if you're walking along and saying, I'm a leader, and you look behind you and no one's following you, maybe you're not the best leader in the world. So you need to ask a few questions. At least I like to ask my audiences these questions for their own purposes. How's my business? Do I love it? Do I enjoy getting up in the morning and going to work, or even going to the other room in today's world, to the computer? Do I love the holidays, all 365 of them? How is your relationship structure? Do you like people? Do people like you? Are you fun to be around? Questions we need to ask ourselves. Would you select you as a friend? Another question is, how is your health? Are you vibrant, vivacious, in tune with life, enthusiastic? Or do you get up at the crack of noon if they let you? What are you doing as far as a health program? How is your love life? Number 4. I think love extends in so many areas. We love to do things. We have people who are loving in their lives. Are we creating that environment? Do we treat our loved ones as well as we treat strangers on the street? Sometimes we need to find out what we've been taking for granted with those who live with us. All right, and finally, how's your financial situation? Do I live in a world of lack or a world of abundance? All of these things we need to ask ourselves. A psychologist or psychiatrist, any one of them, will tell us that 1 out of every 3 people is plagued with one or more of those issues. So just take a look at yourself. It's good to have a self-evaluation every once in a while. My friend George Shapiro was a professor at Minnesota University. He was in St. Paul, and he was the professor of communications. And when you're giving your programs, remember this, that his statistics are only 7% of the people who are listening to you hear what you're saying in words. 38% hear what you're saying in terms of the feeling, the emotion, the passion you're putting into those words, and 55% of what is being communicated is heard through or seen through, more pointedly, body signals. So what kind of signals are we putting out? Are we putting out confident signals? How do you show who you are? In many ways, by the eye movements. When you think no one's looking, trust me, they are. When you're at dinner, if you're on stage, if you're at a meeting, if you're giving a Mars talk, when you arrive there, from the time you leave your automobile or your airplane, whatever it is who's picking you up, to the time you board that airline or get back into your automobile, you're on stage. People are looking at you as an example of what you're teaching. So it's very important to realize that. I was in, where was this? Atlanta. And I was giving a program on leadership. This was at the Hyatt Regency in Atlanta. It's a beautiful hotel. And I walked up to one of the guys in the first row, and I said, "Are you outstanding? Are you fantastic? Are you extraordinary?" And he said, "Well, I wouldn't go that far." I said, "Well, how far would you go?" He said, "Well, I guess I'm about average." I want a show of hands here. How many of you would like to be average? Does anybody want to be average at all? No, you want to be outstanding. You want to stand out. You want to be recognized. But I always point out, in order to be outstanding, you have to stand out. So what are we doing differently? Ask yourself what makes you stand out among the others. What brings you to the forefront of being a leader? When you evaluate your opinion of yourself, you elevate yourself in many areas, you tend to be more trustworthy in other people's eyes. I think the level of which we elevate ourselves in our jobs, in our businesses, in our communities, in the world around us, has largely to do with our communication skills also. So that's why I put out the ambassador manual of tools and techniques, tips for giving talks and talking directly to people and being able to listen to them. One last story. I was in Spokane, Washington. This was years ago, but I remember it so clearly. I was speaking with 16 financial advisors. Sometimes it's a lot harder to talk with a small group than a large group. I don't know if you've experienced that or not, but I certainly have. And these were all financial advisors. A lot of them were accountants, CPAs. This was a tough group to talk to. they were sitting there in their black shirts, their black ties, their black suits, their black shoes. I mean, it seemed like there was a little black cloud hanging over them, and their arms were folded like this, looking back at me with their little beady eyes. And I said, I need to take a break to myself. So I took a break, and one of the guys walked up to one of the other guys in the row, and he said, "Are you happy?" He said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Well, why don't you notify your face?" I mean, it made a lot of sense to me. See, Emerson put it this way: what you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. So when you're approaching the Mars Society, you're approaching a group representing the Mars Society, you are the leader in the room. People will look at you, they will talk with you, and they will expect answers. And if you don't have the answers, that's okay. But you certainly can say, I'll find it and we'll get it to you, or make some kind of a connection with that. Your experiences on leadership in the few minutes we have left, any thoughts or comments on what I was just sharing there? I think it's a key ingredient in the ambassador program.
I remember when I was working on the airlines, and we'd have a passenger confront us with a problem. They needed something and we hadn't got it. But you never said to them, "We haven't got it, I can't give it to you." We'd always say, "I'll go and look." Even though we knew it wasn't there, we'd go and look anyway.
That's
but that
good.
gave that person the confidence that you were trying to convey something to them to make them feel better.
I like that, Steve, very much. Other thoughts, comments?
Well, it's me again, I'm afraid. When I'm teaching people to fly, there's always somebody comes up with a question. They think as a flying instructor, you know all the answers, but I don't. I don't particularly want to tell them that. So I say, well, there you are. That's something we need to find out. And when we get back to the office, we look it up. And he doesn't know that I'm looking it up as well, because I can't remember what the answer is. But
Yeah.
at least he feels and he finds out how to find out the information. So sometimes if you're giving a lecture or something and somebody asks you a question you don't know the answer to,
Yeah.
then the way forward is to say, well, we'll find out, and tell them where they can find out. So, because you can't always just go and look, can you? You might need to go to a library or something.
Right.
But as long as you give them some information, even if it doesn't answer the question, you've made them feel that you responded.
Yes.
I could probably add something, just if you don't mind, just quickly on
Please.
how you make people feel is very, very important. Not just what you're saying. And when we go to a lot of building conferences or technology conferences, Steve often gives a lot of talks because he's very technical, very smart guy. And very often Steve will be maybe the smartest guy in the room, as far as I'm concerned, and he'll give a very technical talk. But where most people go up and they try and tell everyone how great and intelligent, smart they are and how they should be listened to, Steve will go up and put everyone at ease. It's a massive deal where Steve will always go dressed as a typical British gentleman with the waistcoat and everything and all the paraphernalia, to stand out and also to look like a character, but also to be recognizable. But then on stage, he'll make sure that the presentation is putting everyone at ease. He'll mock himself, and he will honestly, he gets recognized everywhere, and people respond to that because he's being humble and he's there to literally help you, and you get that feeling he's there to help you along with the message. So work very hard at that.
That is a talent, and to be cognizant of that, kudos to you for that, Steve. I think it's very important. I thank you again for all of your participation today. It's you that are making the Mars Society's ambassador program stable. If you do run across people who you find might like to spread the word and share these ideas, please knock on my door and we can certainly arrange that to happen. Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to say on to Mars, and we'll see you next month in May.